I'm going to tell you how much I spent to relocate from the United States to Adelaide, Australia, and it is a lot of money. I have my coffee because I'm saving money this week. I made this myself. Okay, I have spreadsheet and everything. Just like my last video, I broke down every single purchase I made from when I got my visa to come back to Australia until my 4-month mark of living in Adelaide. Part of the reason why I moved to Adelaide over other major cities in Australia is because the cost. In comparison, it was more achievable to live here. Things are closer together and rent is cheaper than other cities. And you still have access to a city and work opportunities. So unlike my past experiences in life, cost actually did go into my reason for living in Adelaide. However, you still need $800,000 to $1 million to buy a house. So it's not like the cost of living crisis has not reached Adelaide. All right, so I'm just gonna get right into it and I'm gonna say everything in Australian dollars. I spent $1,704 on my direct flight from Ohio to Adelaide, $600 on my second working holiday visa. It was a little bit more than the first one. I spent $52.99 in the airport for food and whatever. And then when I got to Adelaide, I didn't have a place to live or a car. So the upfront costs were a lot just to be here. I spent $178 public transport and Ubers to get around for 2 weeks. Things here are very spread out, so I, wanted to sightsee, and a lot of times I was like, it's gonna be a lot quicker to get to this one beach I wanna go to by Uber than by public transport. And then I spent $1,225 to stay in an Airbnb for 2 weeks. Listen, I did the whole hostel thing. I also had like 4 bags with me, and I was like, I'm going to treat myself to this because I was moving here alone. I was in a really bad place for a lot of reasons, and I just wanted that one safe space when I got here, so that was definitely worth the money. I spent $266 on food when I first got here for 2 weeks before I moved into a house as well. I was cooking in the Airbnb, but I was also equally like grabbing stuff on the go. Okay, so after 2 weeks, I got a little bit more settled into a house, so I'm gonna tell you now everything that I spent in the first 4 months from that point. I bought a used car for $5,000, which I found through a mutual friend. It's definitely possible to find cars that cheap, but it was like a really good find. I spent $371 to service the car, which you have to do once a year, and then $460 to get something on the car fixed, and then $139 for 3 months of auto insurance, and legally you have to register your car, so $177 to register it for 3 months. I paid $1,800 for a house bond, which was more than I expected to pay. $3,000 for 3 months of rent. Definitely my rent was on the bit more of the expensive side for 5 people in a house, but the house was really, really nice. Food and drinks, and this includes groceries, going out to eat, going out for drinks, all of that. $4,013. I feel like that spending price for food and drinks and all that always kind of has ended up the same for me in different cities, but keep in mind this is with cost of living going up from the time that I was living in Sydney, and I think that was like around the same price that I spent in Sydney then. And I remember like in 2023, if I bought a coffee or something, it would be like $4.50 for a latte, and now I just spent like $8 the other day on a latte. So you can feel that cost like really going up. A lot of times I'll find myself kind of being stingy with my groceries and not trying to spend a lot, and then when I actually am like, no, I'm gonna buy everything I need to eat a nutritious meal every day of the week, you're spending like $130 a week on yourself for groceries. So now I'm gonna get into the next costs, and this is where you see that relocating somewhere in Australia is way different and more expensive than just backpacking, because when you show up and you're backpacking, you're usually renting a room for like a few months that's fully furnished. You don't really have to buy anything. There's also always a lot of stuff in the house you can use, and then a lot of places I actually didn't even really have to pay like a big bond. Then also like, you're living out of a suitcase for a year when you're backpacking around Australia, but I was like, okay, wait, I like need things, like I want to straighten my hair. I want to not be cold in winter. And I brought 2 checked bags. So I had to be really selective about everything that I brought for 4 seasons. One of the things I thought about was, well, I want to bring my linen comforter and my linen sheets that I spent a lot of money on, because I don't want to rebuy that for like $400. That was an investment. So that took up a lot of space in my suitcase. And if you think about it, like shoes, bags. I have all my camera equipment, just all that stuff is really hard to find space for. So I knew I was gonna have to invest money when I got here, and things, I wanted to invest in nice things, not just like throw something out at the end of the year. Stocking up on kitchen things. If you don't have even like olive oil or salt and pepper or whatever, like you're starting from scratch also with like what's in your kitchen. That's a lot of the types of stuff that you're like, oh wait, I have to buy everything. With that preemption, so here we go. Transportation for 4 months, gas, public transport, car rego, Ubers. That was $1,153. I pay like $30 to $50 to put petrol in my car each week, just to get around the city. But then if you have to go further, you have to put in more than that. It's not like petrol's that cheap. That's like $800 a month for gas, and then on top of that for whatever else I'm spending. I'll take Ubers at night. I'm not going to be taking the bus at 2 a.m. after the bars. All right, other big purchases like winter wardrobe. I had to get socks. I had to get tech equipment for my filming work, a nice straightener and curling iron. For my room, a bed frame, a dresser, clothing rack, pillows, home decor, storage items, all the bathroom home items you need, like shower towels. I mean, the list really could go on. So this is literally everything. And then also the random purchases in between, like toiletries. So that initial investment was $5,700. And money is weird because that's a lot of money. Like I was like, wow, I can't believe that I spent that. But then I was like, what am I gonna do? Like not be sleeping on a mattress? I mean, I remember too, when I first bought the furniture, I really was like, I'm gonna buy like the cheapest things. Like I got like an IKEA mattress, pretty cheap bed frame, got like my dress on Facebook Marketplace, and then was like, oh, well, let me spend like a couple $100 to like $200 to get like decor to like make my room feel cozy. So yeah, it's weird because it definitely was worth it. And that's just like, it's just what things cost. My phone bill, $220. I've still been on a Telstra plan, prepaid. And I've noticed I'm not using as much data here because I'm like not out traveling, so I'm not really using my data. I'm using Wi-Fi most of the time. And then my medication, $140. That's usual. I use just like an online service to get my medication in Australia. So when I put all of that together to get myself here for like my flight, establish myself, and then pay for living across 4 months, it was $28,431.70. LOL, because I thought I would be saving money by now. I've been here for 8 months, and I thought I'd just be like living life, going on vacation. But I had a lot of misconceptions about what it was really going to be like to establish myself on the other side of the world. I mean, I had so many trial periods with jobs and being in between work, and then visa related costs that I had to pay for. There's always unexpected costs. And then also I think the cost of living really being higher than when I was here last. Things that I thought would be cheap is just as expensive, I think, as like I was spending in the US, like groceries. Even outside of this cost, yeah, there's times I had to get a skills assessment because when you're here on a visa, you're always thinking of your next step, the next visa you're going to be on. And I was looking at doing a skilled migrant visa, so I had to pay $1,200 to get a skills assessment, and then on top of that, $280 to get someone to look at my documents beforehand. And you know, it's like that's a lot of money. And then if I go to school next year, which I'm planning to, that's like 30,000 Australian dollars. If I get a scholarship, it's just always expensive. So I'm always spending money on the next thing and like trying to catch up from what I just spent. And then there was a couple weeks where I was sick and I wasn't working, so I wasn't receiving income. And yeah, I think I wasn't gonna feel like I was struggling this much. And I think that I've felt really guilty about like my spending and not having a lot of money. But then when I really look at it and how much it just costs to live, and then like all those other things on top of it, like starting over with everything that you own and then visa things, it makes sense that it's that much money. And like I have certain things that I want to spend money on. Like I want to go to workout classes. I want to eat healthy food. I would rather invest in a nice sweater than something that's really cheap. I compromise sometimes on depending on like what I have to buy in a certain month. I think that there's always hacks to save money, but when I got here in the first few months, I felt like I was in fight or flight mode. Like I was just trying to get a job and going to a bunch of interviews and then also trying to make friends and trying to catch up with family and then just moving. Like I had to move twice in my share house, and the last thing I was thinking about was how do I save money on groceries this week? I was like, no, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get a sandwich. Ideally, you're like, yeah, I could spend this amount of money, but when life is like knocking you on your ass, things you're just that goes out the window. So I want to go over a little bit just regular weekly costs because let's say maybe you're coming here and you're not buying a car or you're not spending money on furniture or whatever. So if you want to know how much it is to live in Adelaide, here's some spending. So I usually spend like $30 a week on petrol, like I said, just to get around the city. If I buy like a full everything I need to eat for a week for groceries, that's like $130. $140 on workout classes because I like to go to 4 a week. Another like $100 or $150 per week on going out with friends and doing activities. And if you think about it, if you go out, a movie is $25, like one drink is 20 bucks. So it's very easy to go through that money. With bills, you get billed quarterly, so I couldn't say like how much it is a month, and it depends on if it's summer and you're using your aircon, but I just know that there's times where I dish out like 70 bucks for electric or like $50 for water. When I was living in my first share house, the Wi-Fi was $18 a month per person. All that stuff is going to differ, but I hope that gives you kind of an idea of spending costs. But yeah, I really enjoyed looking at this and dissecting it. I think it's just interesting because, like I said, I'm really hard on myself with spending, and I think I haven't fully grasped the cost of living here until now. After looking at this and just saying, like, wow, like this is expensive. I mean, I just spent $133 on groceries at the store, and I like felt guilty about it. But then I was like, well, I bought everything that I need to like be full and sustain how much I'm working out. And I wasn't buying anything crazy. I was buying like pasta and like watermelon. I think that after backpacking and just always feeling like I'm struggling because I've been in between things a lot, I'm really sick of feeling guilty about money and spending. And I think that if I feel like I'm working really hard and working as much as I can, and then whatever I receive to spend, I just have to tell myself that I'm doing good enough. Yeah, if you have questions about cost of living in Australia or living in Adelaide, anything like that, ask me in the comments. Like I said, I really like talking about what things cost and the spending, even if I am exposing myself. And yeah, I think next I'm going to talk about finding work as an expat and what that is like and realistically being able to afford all this stuff. So that is just another journey. All right, that's it. Bye.